better to frog than eating here. Oh, he's better ball. Big, big. He's going on the white field. Yeah, he's gone.
Wannabe boys, they both have come up this morning.
Right there. Looks so huge.
This is how heavy he is, man. Go hold him up there. Wow, what a set. What a season it's been. There's a nice go. He's not quite as tall as I thought he was. My gosh, the coverage.
It's for sure full.
Love us. That's really popped up on the cameras for us. I came from the first set at home. You know, they're gonna make some noise. They're really not gonna talk about it. We just gotta go.
That's a big girl, baby! Yes! Hell yeah! Oh my god, yes, dude!
What is up, guys? It's Thomas Massa coming at you with our Wannabe Outdoors video. This week's video, we're headed back to my little family farm pond in Minnesota. Going out with my grandpa for a little bit, but he ended up having to go back into the house. So I fished by myself most of the morning. He came out a little bit in the afternoon, and then the rest of the afternoon I was by myself as well. But I hope you guys enjoy the video.
Pretty nice bass. Came out and ate the chatterbait. It's a dang nice one, actually. I think it's like a 3-pounder. Yeah, that's like a 3-pounder. Just got him good right in the corner of the mouth. It's better to frog in the evening here. That didn't take very long. Oh my god, did you see that fish? Shoot, that was a giant bass. Wow, that was a big bass. Okay, that sucks. That sucks that we lost that fish. That was a big bass. That was probably a 4-pounder. That one would have been a nice kicker for sure. We're not gonna get him to eat anything else right now. I was gonna say, if we would have like missed him, I'd have thrown back in there with a different bait to try to get him, but I have to remember that spot right there. Right off that little weed point. No! So good, so good. Big bass, big bass. On the frog, baby, on the frog. Oh my god, that's a giant. Oh my god, did you see that thing jump? Please let me get this thing in. On the frog! On the frog! That's a 6-pounder! On the frog in Minnesota! Oh my God! Look at how he ate the frog! Yes! Oh, he's munched it! Way up in there! Way up in there, man! Oh, holy crap, look at that fish! Look at that freaking bass! He's gotta be 5. Gotta be 5. $5.33. 5.33. That's a tank. That is a freaking giant, dude. Oh my gosh, look at that fish. Okay, I gotta get my phone out really quick and take a picture of that. Okay. Get the big girl back so she can go back to doing what she was doing up there. Eating frogs. Eating some frogs, baby. Eating some frogs. Way back there. Way up in there. A 5-pounder. 5.33. There's our kicker. Oh my God, if we'd have caught that other one, our bag would be looking so good right now. Okay. Okay, so the bass are way up there. Okay, that one might go 2-0. That's how we need to hook them, boys. Punch one of them suckers through. Well, that was crazy. That fish came back and ate it again. Don't know what it was.
All right, guys, it's time for your Rooster Tip of the Week, brought to you by the Rooster Bait and Tackle, the official bait and tackle sponsor of the channel. This week's Rooster Tip of the Week is about fishing around weeds. This lake has a ton of lily pads, but then outside the lily pads, and honestly buried within the lily pads, is a ton of weeds growing up from underneath. There's milfoil, there's some cabbage, so it's really, really thick in there. Especially this time of year. This was in August that I went back there to go fishing. So August, I mean, your weeds are at peak growth pretty much. September, they'll start to die back as the days get shorter, but August is like peak growth. So fishing back there in the weeds is really tough in August. You'll see me use the frog to get over the weeds, which is a great technique, but the fish aren't always hitting the frog. So how do you fish in and around those weeds when they're not hitting the frog? Some of my favorite baits are for outside the weeds and throwing right along the skim edge is going to be a spinner bait or a bladed jig or a chatterbait, whatever you prefer. But those baits are going to work really well along the outside edge of the weeds. You can cast them right up to the edge of those lily pads and work them kind of down the face of the rest of those weeds, you know, being able to kind of just pull fish out of the weeds or off of the weeds that are you know, not right up on the surface. You can kind of control their depth. You know, if you want to cast outside of the boat, You can let them sink down and really pull them in through some of that deeper water, or you can work them right up along the weed edge, burning it up across the edge there. And then another one of my favorite baits is either a swim jig, if I'm going to cast a little bit further outside the weeds, or like a weightless fluke or a weighted paddle tail on a Texas rig hook. Now that weightless fluke or that weighted paddle tail, which it's not a heavy weight, I'm going with usually like an 1/8 ounce little paddle tail weight there on the bottom on that Texas rig. But those baits, you can cast them as far up into the weeds as need be. Now they're not going to get deep into the water column for you, especially in those pads, because your line is laying across the top of those lily pads, so your bait is just not going to sink really well. But if you can, get your line to work between some of those pads, it's a great bait to fish some of those open pockets back in the pads, or even just be able to not have to worry about where you're casting. Just cast 3 or 4 feet into the pads and bring it out of the pads, and you're fishing. You're fishing the whole time. It's not like a chatterbait where if you cast it into the pads, it's gonna get snagged on a pad on the way out of there. You can kind of fish it out of the pads even if you cast a couple feet too far into them. But yeah, those are my favorite baits for fishing in those thick pads and those thick milfoil and cabbage that are located back in many of those Minnesota lakes. Anyway, back to the fishing.
There's a bass. Pretty damn good one too. Not a giant, but a nice one. There we go. Joel, look at how he ate that thing, man. Got the whole chatterbait in his mouth. He was convinced. These open little pockets here. Weeds, I think. That's not weeds.
Not all bad.
That's just a little guy, Grandpa. He's not even 2 pounds. He's not even 200. In the weeds again. On some water. Weeds. Hard to tell the difference between weeds and fish on this though, because that blade stops moving when you hit the weeds. But that last fish didn't really. There's a fish. I bet he's bigger than you think. He's kind of staying down. Oh, that's a good bass there, Grandpa. Don't reel up quite so much line. Try to keep him out there just a little bit.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Just barely had it. Big bass, but he doesn't have it very good. Not a big bass, never mind. And he missed it twice. Sprayed water everywhere with that. He missed it twice. He came back for it and I got him. That's why you don't set the hook right away with a frog. Because you never know. Never know how good they actually got it. That's probably a 1/8, 2/0. 2/0 kind of fish right there. My scale was laying in the water. That's good for it. Finally, we got one. It's even the right kind. A little guy, but a bass nonetheless. On the chatterbait, not even gonna weigh him. He's not gonna help us. Well, that was pretty sick. That one was a long ways back up in there too. Got him good, both hooks.
Thank you guys for making it to this point in the video. Just want to run through some of the things that I was doing quick. If you missed the rooster tip of the week, go back and watch that. I ran through quite a bit of it in there, but I'll go into a little more in depth here. With the frog, I normally, fishing this lake, catch a lot of fish within the last 5 feet of the pads to the edge with the frog, but that wasn't the case this year, and I was really puzzled as to why I wasn't getting those bites. I'm like, there's got to be fish up in the weeds still. Well, there was. I found out that if I casted as far as I possibly could back into the pads, that's where the fish were at. I don't know if it was just they were up there sunning themselves or if the bait was up there for some reason, but there was a pile of fish in that 1 to 2 foot, way back in there, as far in the pads as I could get. It also could have maybe even been that it was sunny, and a lot of it's floating bog. It's not the actual shoreline there, and they could have been sliding underneath that floating bog to get in the shade under there if the water was too warm, which was very possible. I mean, this is August. I mean, it's the hottest water temps. It's your height of weed growth. There were sunny, warm days most of the time, so they could have been in the shade back there, and just as close as you could get to the floating bog, they'd come out from under the bog and hit it. But you'll notice that with my other baits, I was catching a lot of fish outside the weeds, but they were down further. I knew as soon as the frog didn't start working in those last 5 feet of the weeds that the fish weren't up high out there. So I switched to the chatterbait, switched to the swim jig, fished a little swim bait, a little bluegill swim bait, and I did fairly well, as did my grandpa. Fishing outside the weeds, but you had to get it down there further. I think with those hot sunny days, those fish just weren't up high out there. They were down in the water column a little further, hiding in some of those weeds that have really grown out past the pads. But yeah, that was kind of how we broke down the lake. You know, just start with the frog. When you realize there wasn't fish in those last 5 feet of weeds where they really have always been, then you got to start searching, and we ended up finding them. But anyway, thank you guys for making it to this point of the video, and I will see you next week.